So yeah, we were just talking about the finances, weren't we? And you'd said about receiving attendance allowance. Did you and your husband look at any sort of financial packages for paying, sort of financial products for paying for care?
I'm not quite sure what you mean, but we looked at things like annuities, you mean, and that kind of thing, yes. And we decided that it just wasn't worth it, which we're glad about now, because I'm glad about it because it certainly wouldn't have been.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of packages that you can buy, like for funerals and things, but they're very expensive, I think. I personally don't think that they're worth it. I really don't. But other people might have different views on it. I haven't seen any that I thought, my word, that's a bargain, because there's no such thing as a free lunch, is there?
But did you have professional financial advice in general for your investments?
Well, I have had in the past, but it's been useless because they said I couldn't afford things when I jolly well could, They said I had to do this, and, it's very difficult to get really independent financial advice. So no, I didn't.
Okay.
I have had in the past, but it's never been...
satisfactory.
No.
Okay, so your experience then has not been a positive one as regards...
And I've tried different ones, yes.
Okay. So, in terms of your financial resources, are you aware that there are certain thresholds as to how much savings that you have, for example? And is that something that concerns you, that you may be sort of reducing to close to a threshold?
No, not at all, not at all. Because if we use up all our, if I use up all my money, I use up all my money.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And that's just how it is. And there's a wonderful arrangement in this place that when we die or move away, which people don't tend to do, the family get back within a month, I think it's a month, exactly the same amount that we paid for the place.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to hang around for months and months waiting to sell the place. The agreement is they will pay back the family the exact amount that we paid when we bought it. Now, if you're here for years and years, of course, that's not such a good bargain, but it means you don't have to worry about it. You know exactly where you stand. You know how much equity you've got.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. And the amount that we pay for these places, if I move over to the other side, as I call it, and need more 24-hour care, it'll be enough to pay for years over there, 5 years. So, and I certainly don't intend to go over there until, I wouldn't need more than that. So,
So the arrangement here then is that you purchase this apartment, but then if you were to go into a part of the village that provides more care,
yes,
then that would be on a more like a residential basis. Is that?
Well, you have 24-hour care and everything's done for you, and you obviously pay more, but they will also take it, in this place, they'll take it out of the value of your house if you want.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't decided whether you're going to stay there, you can go over on a trial and they can take it out of the value of your house. So with agreement, of course, that you won't get that much when you get back. So it's wonderful. You don't have to worry about it. And I think that's so good.
Yeah. So it sounds like this particular place that you're in, although you mentioned that sort of professional financial advice you haven't really had a positive experience of in the past, but the actual retirement village here thinks about those financial concerns that you might have, and the future financial concerns of when your family might be sorting it out later. So, I mean, that obviously is a very reassuring to you that it's all been thought through. In what way did you learn about all of that? Did they sit down and talk it through with you, or?
Well, I have the privilege, haven't I, of a professional background, and so when we were looking round and having, of course, been a GP as well as all the other things, I've seen what's happened to families when they didn't have it sorted out. You know, we knew what to look for, and that was really why we chose to come to this place, because of, you know, the confidence
Yeah.
that we had in their arrangements.
So, I mean, it's interesting. So, what the things? Can you try and sort of break down for me? What are those financial things that may concern you, but that you feel that this place has provided for?
Well, they clean the windows for me, and if the roof leaks, it's not my responsibility. It's not, you know, it's wonderful. Or if there are floods outside, all the snow, you know, I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to look over after the grounds, you know. All the things which people living in their own homes worry about, or if, you know, the bathroom leaks, it's not my responsibility. You know, it doesn't cost me anything, because, yes, we've bought the place, I've bought the place, but the fixtures are not my responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, you pay an annual fee for
Yes.
that.
A monthly fee, yes.
Oh, yes.
And it's all covered, and you don't pay, you know, it's all included, you don't get extra. And I think it is very, very reasonable. Or if the door breaks, or, you know, the power goes off, it's not my responsibility. I just phone up the porter.
Yes, yeah, fabulous, yes.
Or go down and find the porter and say, help, help. Or even if the TV doesn't work, you know, they'll sort it out. Obviously we get bills for some things. It depends whether it involves a fixture or a fitting, doesn't it? You know, whether it's our furniture or whether it's a private thing.
So your monthly fees, which covers those things you were just explaining, window cleaners and gardens, and as well as your care package, how, out of sort of what pot do you pay for that? Is that coming from your savings, or have you got a pension that?
I have a pension. Yes, I have a
things?
pension. Yes, I have a pension, and it's enough.
So that
Plenty enough.
sees you through all of those things. So in that respect, you're not concerned at this stage about your savings being depleted. No.
Well, no, I don't believe in I never have believed in savings. You know, when we sold our house, you know, that was when we gave to the children. It's no good waiting until you die. You know, what we did and what we've got now. I've got enough to live on. And what's the point of, for my view, as long as I've responsibly got enough to last me till I die, and as I've explained, you know, if I need much more intense care in the future, this place will provide the money for it.
Yes. So in your terms, your savings is the...
Yes, I mean, I do have a little bit of savings, which my elder son keeps kind of ring fenced, and I try and do something with it. And he says, no, but it's not a lot. You know, it really isn't a lot.
Yeah, so, okay, that's fine, I've covered that.
It wouldn't be enough to buy a new car for some people, but you know, and people say, oh, well, you've got lots of it. I haven't, but it doesn't matter. I don't need it. I have the privilege of having worked, and I can pay for my present fees out of my pension, and this place is the security, if you like, for the future.
Yes, and you have your pension, which gives you a monthly income, which you're perfectly happy with. Just thinking about sort of, you were saying earlier about how do people know about getting things like attendance allowance, helping with that. Do you think there's anywhere that you have found is particularly good for getting advice about where to find care, where to find funding for care?
Well, the Citizens Advice Bureau certainly used to be very good. I mean, I haven't tried them recently, but they can be. I mean, here we have village agents, as we call them, who are available to anybody, not just people in this village, who will advise on that. Those with dementia, the Alzheimer's Society are willing to also advise on that. But the problem is you have to then ask for it. You have to go to one of these sources, don't you? to find out about it. There seems to be difficulty otherwise in finding out about it.
Yes, yes. How do you know what to ask?
Mm.
So, what are the village agents then?
Well, it's an area thing. It's nothing to do with this village. It's not this village agent.
Okay. I see.
It's the area, locality village agent, who are paid for by I don't know who. Some are full-time and some are part-time. But they're hubs of information. They don't do things. They're a hub for guideposting people where to go for what they need to know. And they're willing to come and visit people or be in libraries or visit here if necessary, to just tell people where they can go to find out things that they need to know. But I guess that's geographical, isn't it?
That's really good though, isn't it? It's something like that. What would you say is the sort of, what are the features of the care that you get, that you're obviously very satisfied with? What would you say are the features of good care that you would tell people to look out for?
Well, the people here do it because they care about people, not just as a 9-to-5 job. They're not in it for the money. I mean, they get paid, of course, but you can tell when people come for care whether they're really interested in you. You know, the people here, they're always happy and cheerful and appear pleased to see you, and it makes such a difference. They're not reluctant carers. So I think that's important. But also they need to be carers that know what they're doing and know the limits of their responsibility, because it can be dangerous if they don't. So that really depends on management. So you need to be able to trust the management, don't you?
Yes. So what would you say in a nutshell, if people are starting to look for care, they expect to have to fund their own care, what would you say they should do? Where do they start? Big question.
It is a big question. We looked on the internet. You can ask locally, you can ask your GP, though some GPs don't have a clue, others do. You can put it into the internet with, care of the particular type that you want. Again, I would try the Citizens Advice Bureau or community centres or libraries. I mean, some libraries are really very, very good. I mean, our local library, again, it depends who's on, but, they told me about bus pass, free bus pass, and they told me about all kinds of things which I didn't know about. So they can be good. But again, we have to ask. I mean, in the old days, when you could get what they called a postcode prescription, which you was obtained from your GP on everything that was available in your locality. But that was funded by Guideposts, who've now had their sponsorship removed, so it doesn't exist anymore. But that was brilliant when it happened. I know there are various charities, I can't remember which now, who've been telling me that they're trying to restart that in their localities. It'd be wonderful if there was a national hub again. But Guideposts were doing it, but the funding was withdrawn for some reason.
Yeah. So that sort of information's out there, but it's a bit more fragmented now with this.
But before it was wonderful. It was a website, and you just put in your postcode, and it all came up, and you could print it out yourself. And
okay, that sounds good. So a lot of people have mentioned to me that they think that their GP practice would be the place that they would ask, and because obviously if you have some health needs, that's where you are. What sort of facilities do you think would help GP practices to better inform and help? Because obviously they are, the GPs themselves are very pushed for time. It's not going to be easy. So is there any facilities that you think would help GPs to be able to give that information out more easily?
Yes, but I don't think we can expect the GPs to do it. They're up to their eyes. But I know there have been times when, I know the Alzheimer's Society, I know the village have offered to do things, but it depends on your area again. So it comes back to the postcode lottery, which isn't fair. It would be wonderful if there was one kind of hub, one resource that was available to all GP practices, because that would be a wonderful way of handing it out, because that's where everybody goes, isn't it, at some stage?
Mm.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, so something central that GPs could direct people to would be save them time. And,
yes, it would.
And help.
Yeah, some people have suggested post offices, because they also, almost everybody goes to the post office at some stage, don't they?
Yes. Yeah.
Some to get stamps or post their letters or get their pension out or whatever. Their passports and driving licence, they can all do that at the post office. So the post office would be another possibility as a resource centre, wouldn't it?
The post offices are disappearing, unfortunately, aren't they?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, that's lovely. We're nearly done. Is there anything else that you feel that I haven't asked you about, that you would like to tell me about? Having to arrange your care and arrange your funding of this place.
Well, I'd say was that I don't like talking about rights, but I think older people have rights too, to be taken seriously and be considered. And if you have disability, you still have the same rights, really, to be treated decently. And unfortunately, there are some places who think that once you have disability, you don't seem to have those rights anymore. So now and again, I think the person has to be aware that they need to mention that they have, the right to be treated decently. And I know some people with disability really make that a big thing, so I don't like making it a big thing. But I think, sadly, there are times when it has to be mentioned, that people, if they have a disability, a stroke and in a wheelchair, for example, they have the right to be looked after and treated as if they have needs, not just stuck in their wheelchair all day. They need to have places where they can get out and be treated as real people. And there are some care facilities who seem to think that they only treat people, it's not the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The bottom two layers are to keep, the babies safe and change their nappies and get them fed. And they seem to think people with disability and can go down to those two levels. A lot of care homes only provide those two bottom layers. And you can get a gold award, for the bottom two layers, which is not fair, because the third layer is love and belonging. So you need somewhere where you feel that you can be loved and cared for. And that is not something that you pay for. It's either there or it isn't. So I would say you need a care facility that understands about this love and belonging. And then, of course, the top layers are about, your motivation and your self-actualisation, that you still have value in that place. So I would say you need a care facility that, yes, you do need the basic safety and health and food and all that kind of, but you also need somewhere where they understand about being loved and cared for and belonging, and that you're still valued as a human being.
Lovely, thank you. Would you say there's anything missing from the care facilities here that you think would be of advantage for them to include, or for any care facility to include?
Well, the difficulty is that as people get older, we're living longer. It's true. So disability is not increasing, it's just it appears to be because people live longer with it. And there aren't enough carers around. And I think that, the care profession has got to be almost re-evaluated. It's not, if someone says they're a carer, they're considered not to be as good as if they're a teacher. And I think that's got to change, because there aren't enough people to provide care. There aren't. It's nothing to do with pay. Pay comes into it, of course, but there aren't enough people. When I was at school, 1 in 2 females went into nursing, for example. We certainly don't now. So I think the day of robots is going to come, not to provide the human touch, the human responsibility, the human care, but I do think robots are going to be used. I do. And why not? To ask you, have you taken your medication, or deliver your meals or whatever. But it's not going to replace the human touch, because a robot can't replace that, the human relationship. But I think we're going to have to accept robots, and a lot of older people aren't prepared to do that.
Interesting thought. Just remembered something that you mentioned earlier about, you were saying how the cost of care increases each year. Do you have a contract for your care here that sort of sets out what will be those criteria for price rises,
Yes.
etc.?
Yes, we have a contract, that we signed when we came here. They promised it will never go up more than 3% a year, so you can work things out, and that's fair to tell you that. It might be less than that, but it will never be more.
Yes, and are there other? Can you remember what other criteria there are that will affect the prices changing as you go through next year?
Well, that's the one on the monthly fee. The individual care on top of that we buy in on top of that goes up according to the cost of living, or the RPI, whatever they call it. I don't know, there are two different, I can never remember the difference between them. So it goes up in accordance with that.
Yes.
But in accordance with that, which is reasonable. But we've agreed to that.
Yes.
When we come here.
And you feel it was well set out, and
I do. I feel it was very fair.
You could understand how it was going to be predicted. Yeah.
And that's important, because otherwise, goodness knows, it does in some places, doesn't it? It just jumps up all over the place. So that needs to be clear before you sign up for somewhere.
And you can choose what sort of facilities you're wanting to include, and those that you're not. So you have some control over, the way things change. Right. Thank you very much.